Hey everybody, Charles for HumbleMechanic.com. Today we're going to be talking about the Autel MV400 inspection camera. So I picked up this inspection camera for three main reasons. One, to check for internal engine damage, like bent valves from a broken timing belt. Two, for dash work, so I could check to see if blend doors were opening. And three, and probably the thing I'll use it for the most, is to inspect the backs of intake valves for carbon buildup on direct injection engines. There's a lot that I really like about this camera. There's also a few things that I really wish I could change. Let's talk about what's in the box. You have, obviously, the camera. You have a 36-inch extension probe. You have the charging cable. You also have two other cables. One to hook this up to a USB port to your computer, and another one that's a video out, so you could hook this up to a TV. You also get two attachments for the camera. You get a magnet attachment and a mirror attachment. Now this is a plastic-bodied camera housing, and it has a very positive connection the way the camera hooks up. It also has 4 LEDs at the end of the probe where the camera head is, and a full color screen. Like I mentioned, there's a bunch of things that I really like about this camera. The big selling point for me was the very small camera tip. This is the 5.5mm version. They also make an 8.5mm version. I bought this one specifically because I knew it would fit in a glow plug hole, specifically for inspecting diesel engines. I love that this will record video and pictures. It'll record it onto a micro SD card. It also has really great resolution on the camera when the lighting is proper. And as you can see here, you can rotate the screen around so you don't have to spin the camera head to try and get a different angle so you're looking at it right side up. You just mash the button and it'll rotate the screen around for you. Now, some of the things that aren't so great about this camera: in low light conditions, the camera is very weak. I don't think there's enough lights from these 4 LEDs to properly light something like a cylinder. Also, this rubber plug on the side is kind of weak. It doesn't sit very positive. You can see here I'm screwing around with it, trying to get it to stay. I have a feeling, especially too, if you got any oil or anything on it, that this would get really weak and wind up falling off. The USB plug is only for file transfers from the camera to your computer. Unfortunately, you can't do a video out from that connection. It's only a small, like, headphone jack to an RCA plug. Now, you might be able to get some kind of USB to RCA plug adapter. I'm not really sure, but if you want to do video out, it basically has to be hooked up to something that has an RCA plug. But enough about what I like and what I don't like about it. Let's see how this thing works. Now, I got a turbocharger here that we'll talk about a little more about at another time, but let's do some inspections using the camera on this turbocharger. We're gonna start by going in on the exhaust side, and before we get rolling, I'm gonna hit the record button. So as you can see, we're recording here. Now, I got the brightness turned all the way up. This would be the part that bolts to the exhaust manifold. And as you can see, it's really hard to see anything unless I'm right on top of it. And that's due to the low light condition. So this is a good example of how little you can see when it's a low light condition. On the other hand, if we have a little bit of backlighting, we can actually go in and see really well, especially when we're up close. You can see here the damage to this compressor wheel. You see the teeth missing off of it. Now this is fairly well lit inside of here. You can see on this camera right here what I'm looking at, and it's pretty easy to see the damage. I'm gonna also go in through this oil fitting here, and you can see how clear the picture is. Really clear. I really am pleased with the picture quality. The only issue I have is really in low light conditions how little you can see. I mean, we're just kind of rolling around this turbocharger here. Obviously the studio lighting is pretty bright, so this is optimal conditions. The camera picture is clear enough that you can read what it says on the side of the wastegate actuator. We'll come in this way, and as long as we're close to what we're looking at, we can get some idea, but when we're just kind of in the port, you really don't have any sense of space due to the lack of lighting. And we'll come in this way and get a good look. You can see a bit of scoring there. This is actually the turbocharger that I did the failed parts video on. We're gonna do some more cool stuff with it. So let's check out what it looks like with the camera mirror attachment. Another thing that I really like about this particular camera is that the fittings screw on. It may seem like a little bit of a pain in the butt, but I'll tell you that it's way better than having to dig something out of a cylinder head, because the mirror attachment maybe got caught and is now laying on top of the piston. And of course, most of them are non-ferrous, so you can't even use a magnet to pick it up. One other thing about this tip of this camera though, it gets really hot. So if you have it on for a long time, I've had this on for probably about 30 minutes straight, which is a lot longer than you would generally have this camera on. The tip does get fairly warm. Now, if you're normally sticking it down an engine, it doesn't really matter, but if you're doing interior work, that may be something you want to be aware of. Okay, I got the mirror attachment on the end of the camera. As you can see, it kind of blocks some of the picture, but it's still clear enough that we can read, although it's upside down, what's on the camera. So let's go back in this way into this oil port and see what we can see. We'll go in through the front side of the turbocharger and see what we can see, if we can see anything. It's tough because we have to get so close just to see something happen. So this would be really great if you were trying to inspect valves to see if maybe they were bent. Or another thing that I found this mirror attachment to be really beneficial is we had a bolt back out on a timing chain, the lower bolt that holds the crank pulley on a CCTA. So the gear that holds all the timing chains actually separated from the crankshaft, which knocked the engine out of time and caused a bunch of damage. But we were able to go in and inspect the mating surface of the crankshaft and the backside of the crank gear, the part that the chains ride on, to see if there was any damage. Luckily, there wasn't. So overall, I think it's a pretty decent camera, especially when you consider the price of $145 on Amazon, you know, compared to a $700 Snap-on. Obviously, that $700 Snap-on one is going to be quite a bit better than this one here, but I gotta say, for $150, it's really not a bad inspection camera. It's better than the last inspection camera that I bought that paired to my phone, which turned out my phone wasn't even compatible. It does work much better than that. I like the screen. I like that you can record it to an SD card. I like that you can play it back right on the device. So let's say you're inspecting something for a customer, you record it, you pull the camera out, you take this end up to the customer, play the video for them, and you can show them exactly what you've seen while you explain to them what you found. I think if there was a way to increase the light output from this inspection camera, it would make it a considerably better camera than it is right now. But because the head is so small, you can really only do so much. I did try and look down in the cylinders on a car that had the spark plugs out. It was really tough. If you were buying it only to inspect cylinders while the cylinder head is still on, I might pass on this camera and find something that works a little bit better, or at least has a little more light on the camera end. So overall, I think it's a good quality inspection camera, but just not a great quality inspection camera. Again, I do think though, for the price, you're doing pretty darn good. All right guys, I'm gonna wrap it up there. If you have any questions on the Autel MV400 inspection camera, post it in the comments section below. Hey, if you like the video, throw it a thumbs up on YouTube. I always appreciate that. You can also subscribe on YouTube or on the blog at humblemechanic.com. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, the blog, and obviously here on YouTube. All right guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.